I'd like to now move on to our next keynote. And the topic that would be covered in this session is growing and thriving as a testing professional. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Dhiraj Sinha, Vice President of Capgemini. He has a significant experience in the IT services industry, having a strong technology focus coupled with business acumen. And in his role, he has managed large-scale delivery and operations while keeping a strong customer relationship and focus on business growth. He has led the globally distributed workforce in the US, Europe, Mexico, Brazil, Malaysia, and India, and is adept at working in multicultural settings. In his career spanning about 25 years, he has led large delivery teams, set up and grown various technology practices, managed important customer accounts, and handled large-scale operations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and give a warm welcome to Mr. Dhiraj Sinha. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great session. And, I can't afford not to continue with the storytelling. I learned so much. However, before I tell you a story, let me take a selfie with all of you, right? Okay? And now let me tell you a small story behind the selfie. So yesterday night, I took a late night flight from Delhi with my son. He's 12 years old. We had some family situation in Delhi. So today he didn't go to school. And Friday morning, right, I put on my blazer because it was told that, as a speaker, you need to be in formals. So my son asked, Dad, where are you going? I don't think you're going to office because on Friday you don't go in formals to office. And I said, I'm going to speak in a conference. I said, there are guys other than me who will listen to your speech, right? So I said, okay, fine, there would be, and I will take a selfie to prove that, yes, there were audience. So, what I'm going to talk about is pretty much something which is born out of the experience, which I see day in and day out, working with various customers, working with our teams. And we are today in the profession which is undergoing massive transformation. It is undergoing massive transformation, right? So, again, a story. So you would have read Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, right? And I feel that as a testing professional, I pretty much feel that we are in the same state, right? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, right? And I'm not going to read everything, but essentially, we are living in a state of contradiction, right? It's up to us as a professional how we are going to seize that particular opportunity. What are the things that we should be doing? What are the steps we should be taking to really grow and thrive, right? So you will have all the answers in 20 minutes, right? How to double your salary in a year, right? Jokes apart, no one can tell you exactly and prescribe. Each of us are very different individuals. We chart our own path. But over the next 20, 25 minutes, what I'm going to talk about is something which I witness, right? Something which we are witnessing in this industry. And I hope that, you will have a few takeaways, right? So I talked about, this is the best of time and this is the worst of time. It actually depends on how we look at it, right? So, why do I say that it is the best of time? There is high demand for specialized skills. Today, I can just talk about my team. I have close to 1,100 open recs. Okay. Now, of course, there are, thousands of applicants as well. Okay. The kind of skills that you're looking for have become more specialized. Okay. So, and there is a huge demand. I'm just telling you, I'm just giving example of my own team, and you can extrapolate it in the industry. So there's a lot of hiring happening. There's a lot of demand, okay? There is, you can do more programming. When I joined this industry, anyone who was getting into testing, one of the biggest crib or one of the biggest worry they had in mind, I will not get to do programming. I'll not do coding because I'm getting into testing, right? Today, as a tester, I have seen cases, and this I'm not just talking for the sake of talking. I'm seeing cases, and those are the more matured organizations who are ahead of the curve, where a tester in many cases is doing a lot of coding, okay? So you can do that, right? You can be the one who knows the application the best. Who knows? Who knows better functionality than a tester? And of course, sir, you gave a great, oath, right? And, I can just take all the things from that oath and you saw. And many things, I mean, though it was kind of a little bit dramatic, but a lot of things were very, very apt. Tester knows the application probably the best, right? And then, right, you will have no dull moment. You will have no dull moment. Because, it's the testing which is under perpetual transformation. Talk to any CIO, hey, we are spending so much money on testing, right? So, yeah, maybe right, okay? Testing, because of the testing, we are not able to deliver faster. We want to bring in our product and solutions much faster in the market, and testing is becoming the bottleneck, which means that customer after customer, right? And we work with some of the very large enterprises, right? There are customers for whom we have, say, thousands of testers working only for that particular customer. And everywhere the theme is transformation. How do you change? What do you do to transform? How do I, change, whether it is an operating model transformation, whether it is a technology transformation, the workforce skill transformation. Now, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, these are all great things. And you are in the midst of that transformation. So that's why I'm saying this is the best of times. But the same thing, if I just look from a different thing, this could be the worst of times, right? So gone are the days when you would say, look, we have the segregation of responsibilities. We have some people who write the test, who do the test design, and there are guys who will execute that. Because if that's all you're doing, you can automate that. So if someone can work only when the instructions are crystal clear, you'll have a tough time, okay? If you say that you got into testing because you hated coding, well, difficult. I mean, you can still be there. It will take a while before, you say that coding skill is going to be mandatory, compulsory for the testers. But it's pretty much going there, okay? If you want to act in silo, and by silo, I don't just mean that, I want to act as a tester. I also mean, there are cases, several examples I hear. We hire someone for automation or performance. Now, the requirement is a little bit different. After the person comes, we say, hey, you know what? You may have to do exploratory testing, and the guy refuses, okay? Now, of course, if you are the professional who is acting in a silo, I'm a performance tester, I'm an API tester, I'm an automation tester, and I'm not going to do anything other than that because of XYZ reason. Your utility would be fairly limited, okay? And of course, if you work best when the environment is stable and secured, right? So essentially what I'm trying to convey, what I'm saying is that this is one of the best of times if you are the one who seizes the opportunity, if you're the one who is willing to experiment, if you're the one who is not acting in a silo, right? And then I'm, of course, going to talk about some of the practical challenges. I'm going to talk about both what the organization should be doing and what the individual should be doing, right? Now, you look at, Capgemini, right? So we bring out this World Quality Report, and this is coming from the 2018 World Quality Report, right? So I'm not going to talk about everything. But this year, 2018, in the World Quality Report, we focused on various themes, right? What are the trends, Agile and Devops. You will be surprised, this year in 2018, we heard from 99% of the respondents that they are using DevOps in one form or the other in their organization. It's not enterprise-wide adoption, but they're using it, 99%. That's the way the needle is moving, right? Test automation, what are the new objectives and challenges? I know there are specialized automation companies here in this forum. Of course, the way the automation is being looked at is changing drastically, and we wanted to get a pulse of the market, that how's that changing, right? Cost containment, artificial intelligence in QA. And what does it mean? Both from a perspective of applying AI in testing, as well as testing the AI application, both the things, right? And that has a significant impact. And of course, the story around the integrated ecosystem on environment management and the data management continues, right? So what we heard from our customers, the respondents. So this is not just Capgemini customers. We polled about 17,000 respondents across various industries, both the CIOs, the testing heads, the testing professionals. So it was a fairly comprehensive survey, right? So end user satisfaction is coming to be pretty much as the top of the objective, and this was the first time. So the first time, a predominantly testing audience, of course there are CIOs who are respondents, but it was predominantly testing audience which was saying that end user satisfaction is our key objective, right? Despite everyone talking about automation, we still saw that the percentage of automation, still people are saying that, how much you are automated versus the potential, people are still talking about 15 to 20%. So it is still a long way to go. 15 to 20% automated, remaining is pretty big, and the skills are changing. Now, since the topic is more on the skills, let me focus on what are our recommendations on the skills, right? There's some issue. Excuse me. It's not showing on the, can anyone help? Oh, sorry, there was some lag. Okay, so one of the things is break the silos, okay? So we are saying create more open integrated team with multidisciplinary skills, okay? In fact, I will go to the extent of saying that as a tester, we talked about you are awarded because you found the maximum number of defects. Probably we need to rethink that metrics, okay? So the job of the tester is not, I myself as a testing professional 6-7 years back said, we'll live to find defects or we'll live to find bugs. Today I'm not going to say that, we'll live to find bugs. That's not our reason of existence as a testing professional. It is becoming more, how do you enable the others to test more? What stops a developer from testing? It is not just that I'm coding and then I will have a phase when I'm testing and I'm the same person. It's not that, I'm not talking about that. What are the impediments because of which a developer is not doing testing continuously? And as a testing professional, the job is changing from ourselves doing the testing to becoming the enabler who is enabling everyone else in the group to do more and more testing so that the quality improves in process, okay? And that can happen only when we break these silos, okay? Revamp entry-level test curriculum. So what we have done, I can tell you, and I think it's applicable, everyone should be doing that. And as is the case in IT services industry, right? We hire a lot of talent from the college. We call them freshers or whatever name we call them. And they go through, then they get into testing, they get into ADM, digital, all those silos. We have broken that. We said everyone will do full stack developer tester training, okay? And then after doing that, you can be assigned to a testing team, you can be assigned to a development, you can be in a testing team doing a lot of development, and I'll talk about that. So I think there is a need to look at it as an integrated discipline rather than creating the silo from day one where someone joins and says that, you are tester and that's what you will do. Probably that specialization will come a few years down the line, okay? Build quality engineering skills beyond SDETs. Now SDET itself is a story, okay? What animal is SDET? And we can keep on telling stories that, SDETs, what does it mean? But whatever it is, of course, I've seen cases where SDETs are just a glorified term for an automation engineer. You're an automation tester and now being called SDET because it sounds more fancy. But that's not the thing. It's the complete quality engineering discipline. So what is that discipline? What do you mean by quality engineering discipline? Is it just the tool knowledge that, I can do automation and then I know a few build tools, I know a few orchestration tools, I can do some deployment, and then I'm an SDET? Right? By quality engineering skill, what we mean is, again, enabling. What are the friction points? Why your testing is getting delayed? So if your payment is taking 2 days and you're running end of day cycles, okay, and your conventional testing tools are not solving that problem, then someone needs to understand that what can be done to reduce that from whatever number of hours or 2 days to a few minutes. What should I do? And the answer may lie in developing a custom solution, writing some custom code, okay? So that is the software or the quality engineering discipline that we are talking about. And you need to embed some of those guys in the team. I will also talk about something, and I don't know how many of you are doing. I think there is a need for good product managers as part of the testing team. As part of the testing team, okay? The challenge I face, we were talking about, getting some of the, say, Java architects, or the .NET architects, or enterprise architects as part of the test COE, okay? As soon as you tell people that, you're a Java architect, and you will come and be part of our testing practice, conversation ends, right? Conversation ends, and that's a fact. I mean, we are all testers, but we know that, there's still the guys who are working in digital, they won't like to switch and become a tester, right? Now, there is a need. What is the need? I'm looking at testing head or whoever is running that testing as a customer. We go and develop solution for banks, for insurance companies, for retail, telecom, right? And there is a business team which is giving you the requirement, which is saying, these are the features I want to develop, and you have a development team which comes in the play, and they go ahead and develop those features, right? Similarly, when we are doing testing, we run into different issues, okay? And these are the not generic issues we are talking about. This is not something which I'm saying you will do progressive automation and your life will be good, or you will do service virtualization and you will solve the issues. These are, I've seen somewhere there is a tandem which is blocking your thing. Somewhere there is a payments and the way it is orchestrated. Somewhere there are stale accounts and you cannot test that scenario unless you get those stale accounts or inactive accounts. So the issues are different, okay? And there is a solution, but there is no one who understands what are the issues which are blocking my progress and articulates and says, look, if you develop this particular solution, whatever are the roadblocks, we will overcome that. Who in the testing team is playing that role today? Do you have anyone who is playing that role in your testing team? We are all testers. I learned from one of my mistakes, right? We all learn from our mistakes. I'm working in an oil trading kind of situation. It required developing a custom harness for testing for the trading, oil trading. It was an energy trading. Of course, I was head of testing, so I put in my best automation architect. Things didn't work out. Things didn't work out. I shouldn't have put an automation architect to automate that particular thing. I should have put a Java architect there. That was my learning, okay? And then someone should have explained to that guy, look, these are the features which need to be developed. This is my problem statement. And once you are able to explain that, of course, there will be developers who will go ahead and develop that. The challenge is to know what to do, right? And where are the roles within the TCOE? Where are the roles? There is no role that exists within the TCOE which is doing that. We are all testers, taking a lot of pride in finding defects. The world is changing. No longer you should be just taking pride in finding defects. You need to ensure the product is getting into the production at the right quality with speed. And whatever it takes, whether I'm finding defect or whether developer is injecting less defect, doesn't matter, okay? So, I pretty much covered that, right? With that, at the same time, while I've said a lot of these things, if you look at, the expectation, and, there's someone who writes LinkedIn, he's a boy, I don't know if he's here or not very experienced guy, maybe 7-8 years of experience, and I really like his post on LinkedIn, right? I'm one of the followers. And says that, when you're there for the interview, okay, and someone says the job description is that of an SDET, people ask programming questions. People ask everything, right? You should know Selenium, you should know Java, you should know API testing tools, you should know build tools, you should know everything, right? And finally, someone will say, hey, I need core banking or, that trading expertise. So you should know everything. I mean, I think that's one of the challenges, right? We sway from one end to another end, right? On one hand, you had, I call vanilla testers, pardon me for saying that, but plain vanilla testers who just know how to write structured test cases and then execute on those structured test cases, or at best, they have now learned how to automate it, okay? So even if you have learned how to automate the step-by-step instructions, in my dictionary, it is still plain vanilla testers. So either you have an army of those plain vanilla testers, or you are moving to another direction where you're saying, I need you to be a superhuman. I think the truth is somewhere in between, right? You need to, and that's creating problem, and talk about some of the challenges on the ground, when we hire people, when we deploy, and many times we hire jointly with our customers, right? When we deploy, we see what kind of challenges, we face, right? So these are coming straight from the ground, right? I mean, in my role, I try my best to be there on the floor as much as possible. So I'll not talk about rate, but this is, I think this forum has both the buyers and the service providers, right? And after talking all those expectations, you saw my previous slide, right? In terms of what is the expectation? We want someone who can set up your environment, who can work on the mobile, who can do service virtualization, knows XYZ domain. When it comes to the rates, okay, testers are cheaper than developers, right? And I'm not blaming anyone, right? I'm neither blaming the buyers nor the sellers, right? It's the ecosystem in which we are working. But very clearly, I think there is a need to look at that, because we know if you throw peanuts, what do you get? Right? So we all know that. So at the end of the day, after having set all the expectation, if you're still looking the rate where you're saying testers will be paid, or the rate for testing will be lower than the rate for developers or digital skills, somewhere the compromise will be made, is the reality. Okay. The other related thing to that, I'll come to that. The other related thing to that is many organizations, while we are talking, and majority of the people probably sitting here are guilty to it, right? Particularly the management layer and the decision makers. We still have testing maybe 2 or 3 different categories in the testing skill set. That's it, okay? And if you look at the salary, fitment, whatever surveys are being done, that would be probably lower than what the developers get. That still remains a challenge. And I think both the rate, and that is there because of the rates as well. And I'm talking more from a services company perspective, right? So they will go hand in hand, but essentially there is a need to recognize that there are skills where the ask is even much higher than just knowing, say, a Java or the front end and back end, and that's it, right? It is not just the full stack developer. You're asking of a full stack developer and tester, which is more than a full stack developer. So you have to pay for that, right? So that's one. The second thing I've seen, which is still happening, hopefully it will go away after some time, I've seen many organizations doing and talking about transformation. So the first thing they talk about, that if we have to transform, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? I should have the right people who will transform, right? Of course, you have to have the right technology and the tools. So along with the tools and technology, you need to have the right people who will do the transformation, okay? So you end up hiring a lot of experts, okay? You end up hiring a lot of the new skill testers, as we were talking about. And then you ask them to do whatever you were doing 10 years back, right? So the person loses motivation, okay? So you have hired someone expecting certain outcome, but you have not thought through that once the person comes on board, what kind of assignment, what kind of challenges I am giving to that person, okay? Now, some of these things I'm talking about is not from the professional perspective. I'll come to, because your management is not going to change. Or like you said, your boss probably is not going to change immediately overnight, right? You need to respond even if organizations don't change, and I'll talk about that. But this, I'm talking more from an organization perspective. What are the issues that you're facing on the ground, right? Creating an army of poor automation testers, right? So we are very good, right? I mean, I'm talking now, I told you, right? I've handled global teams. But at least in India, we are very good at creating the scale and take a lot of pride in terms of creating the scale, right? We have, company X will say we have 25,000 people in our testing. Right? Company Y will say we have 32,000 people, right? So it's all about scale, okay? I'm not commenting whether right or wrong, right? You get my drift. Now what is happening is, now that you're saying, I have 32,000 people in my testing team, 70% of them know automation. Great. 70% of them know automation. What kind of automation? What can they do? I mean, just because I can use Selenium, or forget about even Selenium, one of the tools, I mean, let me not get into tool specific, but tool X, Y, Z, okay? Do some basic level of coding where I can do some validation, etc. Doesn't make you, I mean, you are as good as, and that's why I'm calling, you are still plain vanilla tester with little bit of understanding of automation, and that is what is happening. So the transformation, which should be the real transformation, still little away, right? And okay, and the final thing is very interesting. So whatever I said, right, you heard me for the last 23 minutes. A lot of focus on technology, coding, et cetera, and even to an extent, even I am guilty of it. So what is happening? Since we are so focused on technology skills, suddenly you realize one fine day, and it has happened with me in a few cases, by the way, and that's why I'm talking, that now you have less number of functional experts than required in your testing team. You have just not put enough emphasis on the domain expertise, and then you're struggling, right? And it's a tough balance, right? Because today, to be very frank, I don't want to hire in my team a person who says that I am just a manual functional tester. I don't want to hire. Because even if I have a requirement for the next 6 months, I don't know what to do once that particular assignment ends. And this is a real situation I'm talking about. So what is the need and what is the solution? Okay. So the way we look at how your composition would be, if you're looking at if at all you will still have those large TCOE, okay? I still see that the operating model is going to change and things will go more, federated kind of model rather than a strictly centralized model. But even if whatever, you look at a pool of people who are doing something testing, quality engineering, whatever you want to call them, I see that about 7 to 10% of that population would be the real enablers, the things that I was talking about, who would understand what needs to be developed, how to develop, and remove the roadblock from the entire team to do the testing. So that would be, I mean, these are not sacrosanct percentage, but say 7 to 10, 12%, right? You will still have, okay, forget it, I think, let it come back. You will still have, maybe around 15 to 20% testers who are more functional experts. The difference I'm making is they need to be real domain expert. They need to have deep functional expertise. Just because I understand, what is claims doesn't make me claims expert, okay? So it's a combination of product and the business process expertise. So if I know Duck Creek, if I know Guidewire, and I know that particular business process to a great level of detail, where I can challenge even the business people who are giving me the requirements, I will have a value, okay? So that number is going to dwindle, but it's not going to go away. And I also see that more and more, they will start doing exploratory testing. I mean, how many times we all know, right? There's no point in preaching to the choir, that we would have run all the test cases, still there are defects, right? And when I say all, I'm not saying 200, 500. You would have run 40,000 regression test cases, and still there are defects. And you do a 3 hours of exploratory testing on the floor. 3 hours of exploratory testing on the floor, and you find so many defects which are not caught by those 40,000 test cases. Now, of course, it depends on who is doing that testing and how that is being done. If it is done by an expert, and you are focusing on certain time slice for doing exploratory testing, and you have the right people, you will find a lot of issues, right, which will help you improve your product quality. So that is the second layer, right? So I talked about the enablers, call them SDET, call them whatever, okay? They are the quality engineers who are not testers, they are the enablers, okay? I talked about the deep domain experts, the remaining, whatever percentage left, right, 60 to 70%, that would be, broadly, you can classify them as technical testers, okay? So they are your automation guys, they are your full stack guys, they are your performance testers, API testers, service virtualization guys, whatever, right? If it is an ETL, depending on what you're doing, right? They would be doing testing using technology, using tools, and not just doing it manually. That is how I see, or we see, the composition of your test COE going to look, right? A few things. So what is your response? I mean, I talked about doubling your salary in a year, right? I wish it was that simple. But if these are the challenges, as a testing professional, what should you be doing? How should you be responding? And I can see, all of you are not so young. Some of you are like my age bracket as well. So the biggest challenge I see is the people who have spent 15, 20 years, right? It's easier to take your fresher population, 2-year, 3-year, 5-year population and mold them, okay? So I'll talk on both, okay? I'll talk on both and, what should be the response. So one is develop specialized skills. Compensation will follow sooner or later, and most likely sooner, if you have developed that kind of skill, okay? But you need to identify what is my sweet spot, where I am. For example, test data, test environment remains a big challenge. Is that something which you want to take it up and develop, where you can go and very confidently you can have a strategy defined and execute on that? And this is for the mid to senior level. If you are an entry-level guy, then you understand what does it take to implement whatever strategy is being defined, right? But look at specialization. The days of generalization is getting it's getting undermined. There are still need for good program managers or the delivery managers, and I don't want to undermine that. But it's not going to give you that kind of pull from the market if that is what you're looking for, right? Be the enabler. I talked about it. Please look at redefining your role from, I live to find defect, to how do I ensure that the defects don't reach me? And then I just do some sanity testing and then it's good to go. So what should I be doing? How should I be making developer my best friend in the true sense of the term, right? Or the business analyst or whoever else, right? The ops guys. I'll come to that. I'll take a few questions after this, right? Develop integrated skills and develop deep domain capabilities, right? I mean, that's what it is. The point which I talked about, that if you're an automation tester or you're a full stack, and suddenly your organization says, in this, you have to do manual testing. And you either start looking for another job or you refuse or you create issues. I think some of those instances will still happen. Look at that as an opportunity to develop your soft skills, develop your domain skills, but still move to, how do I implement, right? So that is my take. So once again, just to, summarize what I said, pretty much if you hate coding, and that's the reason why you are in testing, unless you transform yourself into a deep domain expert, it's going to be very tough for you, right? You need to use whatever opportunity and know more than the other people in your teams, because you are the one who knows the domain, who knows the technology, right? You need to work in an integrated fashion, removing the silo, and finally, redefine your job from finding defects to ensuring that defects are not coming to you, right? So that's all I would say. And if you are really thinking and doing that, I don't want to prescribe how you will do it. I mean, there are a lot of ways, right? Your salary most likely will double in a year, right? So with that, I'm willing to take a few questions if you have. Yep. Agreed. We measure a tester with a defect density, and the defect density reduces. Agreed. We penalize it. Agreed. So that's what I was talking about from an organization perspective, right? You need to look at a different metrics in terms of how do you measure the effectiveness. You also need to look at the roles. I talked about the product manager role in testing team. You need, as far as I know, I have not seen that existing. You need to embed such guys in your team. You need to not only rely on your testing team members to solve their problems, but don't hesitate to bring an architect who's an enterprise architect or a .NET or Java architect in your testing team, right? And goes without saying that if you have done all those things, and then you're finding, right, like they say, ye kitna deti hai, right? So you say how many defects you find. If you do all those things, then still you say, how many defects you found. So, but the things are evolving. The good news is that people have started thinking, People have started thinking in that direction. And for the people who are in the mid-level, who have 15, 20 years of experience, I think if you transform yourself to more someone who can drive the transformation, I mean, I will hire you, okay? I have a lot of requirement for such guys who can put a solution together, who can actually walk the talk and execute on the transformation, right? But what you get, I get guys' resume, you know, I have 25 years of experience in XYZ, testing, generic delivery management, generic program management skills, and I keep on getting those resume, and you know, very unfortunately, I don't have too much for them. And when I say I think I'm talking on behalf of the industry, not just one company. Okay.
Quality assurance, business assurance.
Right.
So when you use the word business assurance, I think the assurance which is quality as well as business is also taken care of.
Right.
But somehow that
Yeah, I mean, see, we can debate on the term, right? We are no longer calling things as testing. You're saying quality engineering, okay? You can say this is business assurance. The fact of the matter is that testing today, I look at as an integrated discipline, which is integrating your engineering aspect, which is on the development, is looking at the operations. So when you are talking about AI analytics, you are not just talking about the quality of the software that is under development, you're also talking about what is the production health. So you are moving right, okay? So on the operations front, you're talking, what was on WQR, I showed you. What was the topmost objective? End user satisfaction. What is the end user satisfaction? Business satisfaction, right? I mean, we know one of the top banks, mobile app is down for so many days. I mean, what happened? I don't want to get into the details, but something happened which shouldn't have happened, okay? So what is happening now to end user? There is a doubt in the mind, despite having such a big brand, So that is the business assurance, right? The end user satisfaction, operations, development, and you are somewhere in between, right? It's an intersection, and that is the integrated QA, right? So that's what it is, okay? Great, thank you so much. Thanks.
Once again, a very big thank you to Mr. Dhiraj Sinha for that fantastic presentation. Before we move on to our final keynote 6, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Sanal Nair from Tricentis. They're going to pick a few winners quickly. They had a Twitter contest that they were running, so I'm going to hand it over to Sanal.
Thank you so much. We had a Twitter competition where we asked people to tweet their pictures, their comments, questions with the hashtag Tricentis, the answer. And we have 3 prize winners. So let me announce the third winner. The third prize goes to Sneha Kashyap. The second prize goes to Sonu Rana, and the first prize goes to Rajat Tahim. So can we have all of you come onto the stage to get your prizes?
Congratulations to you. Third place. Second and the first person as well. Congratulations. Well done. Twitter contest winners from Tricentis. They ran this contest. Can we have the first person?
It's okay, we'll send it to him later. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanal Nair.